Hi. Okay, this video is going to be about multiplying fractions times fractions, unit fractions, and we haven't released the trick, so I'm like, I'll talk about the trick. We know there's a trick. It's actually about understanding the math of why this works. So they have homework tonight, and it looks like this. Okay. So the first one says, use the rectangle at the right to sketch how you would fold paper to help you find 1/3 of 2/3. And we know that the word of means to multiply. In a class we worked on actually replacing the word of with a multiplication symbol. And we actually did do paper folding to begin with. We didn't just start drawing them. We actually folded paper and made the cuts, shaded them inappropriately. So what they're talking about here is that to do a fraction times a fraction in a rectangle that's already given, or if you have to draw your own rectangle, one of the fractions has to go either vertically or horizontally, and the other one has to go the other way. So I always just do vertical, horizontal, no matter what. And of course, if they could accidentally mess it up and do horizontal what I did vertically, it doesn't matter as long as they represent the other fraction the other way because of the commutative property. We can switch it around with the order and you'll still get the same answer. So what does this look like? We worked in class on things like this. Okay, so they worked today after they paper folded. So number one says a half of a half. So we worked on, okay, that means a half times a half with a multiplication symbol. And then we said, okay, vertical, horizontal, which it doesn't matter in this case because it's a half times a half. So, but I always do this just to say, okay, I'm cutting this one vertical. So I take my straight edge and I cut vertically in half, because it was a half. Now it was 1/2, so I need to shade one of those halves all the way down. I didn't make any more cuts. They should not be making any more cuts yet. Not rushing through it. So then I shaded half using diagonals. Notice I didn't go back and forth. I picked my finger up, started, my whole hand got picked up every time. Because here's the important part. So that was vertical. I'm not allowed to go vertical anymore. And I'm not allowed to shade in that particular direction either. So now I said I'm doing this other half horizontally. So I'm going to cut it in half horizontally. Okay? And I need to shade half. So we worked on putting their pencil in the half. Okay, I'm putting my pencil in this half. It means all the way across from start to finish of my pen or pencil has to be shaded, not just a piece of it. All of this half should be shaded, but again using diagonals, and it goes in the opposite direction. So I always actually start in the piece that has shaded already, but I can't forget that over here is also part of that half. So I need to make sure that it gets shaded as well, so that I have a half shaded here and I have a half shaded vertical. And what happened is they made crosshatch. They ran into and intersected each other right here. So we say, okay, how much crosshatch did it have? 1. That's your numerator. How many pieces did we create when we made all those cuts? 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So that's our denominator because part out of whole. So a half times a half is 1/4. And again, we didn't talk about the trick. We were trying to justify why this is 1/4. So then they did something like this, 3/4 of 1/2. So 3/4, I'm going to do that vertical. So again, I make the decision of vertical and horizontal, and I write myself a reminder. So vertically, I'm going to cut fourths. Well, fourths, if you cut something in half, and then you cut that in half, sorry, I'm not using a straight edge because I'm just trying to show you that if you cut each half in half, you get fourths. And I told the kids too, they don't have to be perfect. We're humans. They're not going to be perfect. And this time, though, I'm shading 3/4. It's no longer a unit fraction. A unit fraction is when 1 is the numerator. But this numerator is 3, so I need to shade 3 of these fourths. And notice I'm not worrying about the half yet. We don't even consider that until we have our cuts and shades for the first fraction. And then I try to tell kids, watch this. I'm going to knock out all 3/4 without having to do all these individual pieces over and over. And you can do that from the very beginning. It's just I have some kids trying to do each little piece, and then shade each little piece, and then shade each little piece. When if I have 3/4, I can actually knock out the 3 out of the 4 at the same time. Now I'm going to worry about my half. These are vertical. Horizontal is the x-axis or the horizon going from east to west. So now I'm going to cut this in half. And again, I'm going to put my pen right there. I need to shade that whole half all the way across, not just a part of it. So all of this has to be shaded in the opposite direction. So again, I start where it's already shaded because then it's easy for me to see the opposite direction in which I should be shading now. Okay? And so see this piece is shaded in because it's part of that top half. So I can clearly see my 3/4 and I can clearly see my half. And so then I put zeros in my crosshatch in each one of them. And I have 3 zeros, which means my numerator's 3. That's a horrible 3. Oh well. I'll scratch that out and try again. There. 3. And how many pieces do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 pieces now, so that's my denominator. So this says that 3/4 of, and I'm going to replace of with a multiplication symbol, so 3/4 times 1/2 equals 3/8, because is another word for equals in math. So that's all we did in class today after we paper folded, literally doing paper folds. We took it to paper and pencil. And so then on their homework, it asks a few more questions besides that. They have to do 2 of those drawings. And then at the bottom, it says rewrite 2/3 of 3/4 using the multiplication symbol. All that means is all they want you to do is literally replace the word of with a multiplication symbol. Right? And I use a star because an X is like algebra. And they show you the star right there, the asterisk as the multiplication symbol, which looks like a blur right there. So that's all that they're supposed to do. And number 4 says rewrite the following fraction of fraction problems using the multiplication symbol, because fraction of means to multiply. So they would just rewrite 1/4 of 1/3 using the multiplication symbol. So 1/4 times 1/3. If you want to solve it, if you have figured out the trick and you want to go ahead and write an answer, you can, but it did not ask for that in the directions, like it did up at the top where it says what is 1/3 of 2/3. When you're making your drawing, you are supposed to answer the question there. All right, have a great night.